لقد حق القول على أكثرهم فهم لا يؤمنون إنا جعلنا في أعناقهم أغلالا فهي إلى الأذقان فهم مقمحون وجعلنا من بين أيديهم سدا ومن خلفهم سدا فأغشيناهم فهم لا يبصرون وسواء عليهم أنذرتهم أم لم تنذرهم لا يؤمنون إنما تنذر من اتبع الذكر وخشي الرحمن بالغيب فبشره بمغفرة وأجر كريم إنا نحن نحيي الموتى ونكتب ما قدموا وآثارهم وكل شيء أحصيناهم في إمام مبين واضرب لهم مثلا أصحاب القرية إذ جاءها المرسلون إذ أرسلنا إليهم اثنين فكذبوهما فعززنا بثالث فقالوا إنا إليكم مرسلون قالوا ما أنتم إلا بشر مثلنا وما أنزل الرحمن من شيء إن أنتم إلا تكذبون قالوا ربنا يعلم إنا إليكم لمرسلون وما علينا إلا البلاغ المبين قالوا إنا تطيرنا بكم لئن لم تنتهوا لنرجمنكم وليمسنكم منا عذاب أليم قالوا طائركم معكم إذ ذكرتم بل أنتم قوم مسرفون وجاء من أقصى المدينة رجل يسعى قال يا قوم اتبعوا المرسلين اتبعوا من لا يسألكم أجرا وهم مهتدون وما لي لا أعبد الذي فطرني وإليه ترجعون أتخذ من دونه آلهة إن يردني الرحمن بضر لا تغني عني شفاعتهم شيئا ولا يوقظون إني في ضلال مبين إني آمنت بربكم فاسمعون قيل ادخل الجنة قال يا ليت قومي يعلمون بما غفر لي ربي وجعلني من المكرمين وما أنزلنا على قومه من بعثه من جود من السماء وما كنا منذرين إن كانت إلا صيحة واحدة فإذا هم خامدون يا حسرة على العباد ما يأتيهم من رسول إلا كانوا به يستهزئون ألم يروا كم أهلكنا قبلهم من القرون أنهم إليهم لا يرجعون وإن كل لما جميع لدينا محضرون وآية لهم الأرض الميتة أحييناها وأخرجنا منها حجا فمنه يأكلون وجعلنا فيها جنات من نخيل وأعناب وفجرنا فيها من العيون ليأكلوا من ثمره وما عملته أيديهم أفلا يشكرون سبحان الذي خلق الأزواج كلها مما تنبت الأرض ومن أنفسهم ومما لا يعلمون وآية لهم الليل نسلخ منه النهار فإذا هم مظلمون والشمس تجري لمستقر لها ذلك تقدير العزيز العليم والقمر قدرناه منازل حتى كالأرجون القديم لا الشمس ينبغي لها أن تدرك القمر ولا الليل سابق النهار وكل في فلك يسبحون وآية لهم أنا حملنا ذريتهم في الفلك يسبحون في الفلك مشحون وخلقنا لهم من مثله ما يركبون وإن نشأ نغرقهم فلا صريخ لهم ولا هم ينقذون إلا رحمة منا ومتاعا إلى حين وإذا قيل لهم اتقوا ما بين أيديكم وما خلفكم لعلكم ترحمون وما تأتيهم من آيات ربهم إلا كانوا عنها معرضين وإذا قيل لهم أنفقوا مما رزقكم الله قال الذين كفروا للذين آمنوا أنطعم من لو يشاء الله أطعمه إن أنتم إلا في ضلال مبين ويقولون متى هذا الوعد إن كنتم صادقين ما ينظرون إلا صيحة واحدة خذوهم وهم يخصمون فلا يستطيعون توصية ولا إلى أهلهم يرجعون ونفخ في السور فإذا هم من الأجداث إلى ربهم يصلون قالوا يا ويلنا من بعثنا من مرقدنا هذا ما وعد الرحمن وصدق المرسلون إن كانت إلا صيحة واحدة فإذا هم جميع لدينا محضرون فاليوم لا تظلم نفس شيئا ولا تجزون إلا ما كنتم تعملون إن أصحاب الجنة اليوم في شغل فاكهون هم وأزواجهم في ظلال على الأرائك متكئون لهم فيها فاكهة ولهم ما يدعون سلام قولا من رب رحيم وامتازوا اليوم أيها المجرمون ألم أعهد إليكم يا بني آدم ألا تعبدوا الشيطان إنه لكم عدو مبين وأن اعبدوني هذا صراط مستقيم ولقد أضل منكم جبلا كثيرا أفلم تكونوا تعقلون هذه جهنم التي كنتم توعدون اصلوها اليوم بما كنتم تكفرون اليوم نختم على أفواههم وتكلمنا أيديهم وتشهد أرجلهم وبما كانوا يكسبون ولو نشاء لطمسنا على أعينهم فاستبقوا الصراط فأنى يبصرون ولو نشاء لمسخناهم على مكانتهم فما استطاعوا مضي ولا يرجعون ومن نعمره ننكسه في الخلق أفلا يعقلون وما علمناه الشعر وما ينبغي له إن هو إلا ذكر وقرآن مبين لينذر ما كان حيا ويهق القول على الكافرين أولم يروا أنا خلقنا لهم مما عملت أيدينا أنعاما فهم لها مالكون وذللناها لهم فمنها ركوبهم ومنها يأكلون ولهم فيها منافع ومشارب أفلا يشكرون واتخذوا من دون الله آلهة لعلهم ينصرون لا يستطيعون نصرهم وهم لهم جند مهذرون فلا يحزنك قولهم إنا نعلم ما يسرون وما يعلنون أولم يرى الإنسان أنا خلقناه من نطفة فإذا هو خصيم مبين واضرب لنا مثلا ونسي خلقه قال من يحيي العظام وهي رميم قل يحييها الذي أنشاها أول مرة وهو بكل خلق عليم الذي جعلكم من الشجر الأخضر نارا فإذا أنتم منه توقدون أوليس الذي خلق السماوات والأرض بقادر على أن يخلق مثلهم بلى وهو الخلاق العليم إنما أمره إذا أراد شيئا أن يقول له كن فيكون فسبحان الذي بيده ملكوت كل شيء وإليه ترجعون.
محمد وعلى محمد صلوات. اللهم صل على محمد وعلى محمد.
محمد صلوات.
اللهم صل على محمد وعلى محمد.
اللهم صل على محمد وعلى محمد. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. عن فاطمة الزهراء عليه السلام بنت رسول الله صلى الله عليه وآله قال سمعت فاطمة أنها قالت دخل علي برسول الله في بعض الأيام فقال السلام عليك يا فاطمة فقلت عليك السلام قال إني أجد في بدني رفا فقلت له أعيذك بالله يا أبتاه من الضوء فقال يا فاطمة ائتيني بالكساء اليماني فغطيني به فأتيته بالكساء اليماني فغطيته به وسرت أنظر إليه وإذا وجهه يتزعزع كأنه البدر في ليلة تمامه وكماله.
اللهم صل على محمد.
فما كانت إلا ساعة وإذا بولدي الحسن عليه السلام قد أقبل وقال السلام عليك يا أمي فقلت عليك السلام يا قرة عيني وثمرة فؤادي وقال يا أماه إني أشم عندك راية طيبة كأنها راية جد رسول الله صلى الله عليه وآله فقلت نعم إن جدك تحت الكساء فأقبل الحسن نحو الكساء وقال السلام عليك يا جداه يا رسول الله أتأذن لي أن أدخل معك تحت الكساء فقال وعليك السلام يا ولدي ويا صاحب حوضي قد أذنت لك فدخل معه تحت الكساء فما كانت إلا ساعة وإذا بولدي الحسين قد أقبل وقال السلام عليك يا أمه فقلت عليك السلام يا ولدي ويا قرة عيني وثمرة فؤادي فقال لي يا أماه إني أشم عندك راية طيبة أنها راية جد رسول الله صلى الله عليه وآله. فقلت نعم، إن جدك وأخاك تحت الكساء. فدنا الحسين نحو الكساء وقال: السلام عليك يا جدا، السلام عليك يا من اختاره الله. أتأذن لي أن أكون معكما تحت الكساء؟ فقال: وعليك السلام يا ولدي ويا شافي أمتي، فقد أذنت لك. فدخلا معهما تحت الكساء. فأقبل عند ذلك أبو الحسن علي بن أبي طالب وقال: السلام عليك يا بنت رسول الله. فقلت: وعليك السلام يا أبا الحسن ويا أمير المؤمنين. فقال: يا فاطمة، إني أشم عندك راية طيبة كأنها راية أخي وابن عمي رسول الله. فقلت: نعم، هو مع ولديك تحت الكساء. فأقبل علي نحو الكساء وقال: السلام عليك يا رسول الله، أتأذن لي أن أكون معكما تحت الكساء؟ قال له: وعليك السلام يا أخي ويا وصي وخليفتي وصاحب لوائي، قد أذنت لك. فدخل علي تحت الكساء، ثم أتيت نحو الكساء وقلت: السلام عليك يا أبتاه يا رسول الله، أتأذن لي أن أكون معكما تحت الكساء؟ قال: وعليك السلام يا بنتي ويا بضعتي، قد أذنت لك. فدخلت تحت الكساء. فلما اكتملنا جميعا تحت الكساء، أخذ بي رسول الله بطرف الكساء وأومى بيده اليمنى إلى السماء وقال: اللهم إنه أولئك أهل بيتي وخاصتي وحمتي، لحمهم لحمي ودمهم دمي، يؤلمني ما يؤلمهم ويحزنني ما يحزنهم. أنا حرب لمن حاربهم وسلم لمن سالمهم، وعدو لمن عاداهم ومحب لمن أحبهم. إنهم مني وأنا منهم، فاجعل صلواتك وبركاتك ورحمتك وغفرانك ورضوانك علي وعليهم، واذهب عنهم الرجس وطهرهم تطهيرا. قال الله عز وجل: يا ملائكتي ويا سكان سماواتي، إني ما خلقت سماء مبنيا ولا أرضا مدهيا ولا قمرا منيرا ولا شمسا مضيا ولا فلكا يدور ولا بحرا يجري ولا فلكا يسري إلا في محبة هؤلاء الخمسة الذين هم تحت الكساء. فقال الأمين جبرائيل: يا ربي، ومن تحت الكساء؟ فقال عز وجل: هم أهل بيت النبوة ومعدن الرسالة، هم فاطمة وأبوها وبعلها وبنوها. فقال جبرائيل: يا ربي، أتأذن لي أن أهبط إلى الأرض ليكون معهم سادسا؟ فقال الله: نعم، قد أذنت لك. فهبط الأمين جبرائيل وقال: السلام عليك يا رسول الله. العلي الأعلى يقرئك السلام ويخصك بالتحية والإكرام، ويقول لك وعزتي وجلالي: إني ما خلقت سماء مبنيا ولا أرضا مدهيا ولا قمرا منيرا ولا شمسا مضيا ولا فلكا يدور ولا بحرا يجري ولا فلكا يسري إلا لأجلكم ومحبتكم، وقد أذن لي أن أدخل معكم، فهل تأذن لي يا رسول الله؟ فقال رسول الله وعليك السلام يا أمين وحي الله، إنه نعم قد أذنت لك. فدخل جبرائيل معنا تحت الكساء، فقال لأبي إن الله قد أوحى إليكم يقول إنما يريد الله ليذهب عنكم الرجس أهل البيت ويطهركم تطهيرا. قال علي لأبي يا رسول الله أخبرني ما لجلوسنا هذا تحت الكساء من الفضل عند الله. فقال النبي والذي بعثني بالحق نبيا واصطفاني بالرسالة نجيا، ما ذكر قبرنا هذا في محفل من محافل أهل الأرض، وفيه جمع من شيعتنا ومحبينا، إلا ونزلت عليهم الرحمة وحفت بهم الملائكة واستغفرت لهم إلى أن يتفرقوا. فقال علي إذا والله فزنا وفاز شيعتنا ورب الكعبة. قال نبي ثانيا يا علي والذي بعثني بالحق نبيا واصطفاني بالرسالة نجيا، ما ذكر قبرنا هذا في محفل من محافل أهل الأرض، وفيه جمع من شيعتنا ومحبينا، وفيهم مهموم إلا وفرج الله هما، ولا مغموم إلا وكشف الله غما، ولا طالب حاجة إلا وقضى الله حاجته. فقال علي إذا والله فزنا وسعدنا، وكذلك شيعتنا فازوا وسعدوا في الدنيا والآخرة ورب الكعبة. اللهم صل على محمد وعلى آله. اللهم صل على محمد وعلى محمد.
محمد وعلى محمد صلوات.
اللهم صل على محمد وعلى محمد.
نعتیہ سلام. سرفراز ابد شاعر ہیں، ان کا کلام. تصور میں جمال مصطفیٰ ہے، تصور میں جمال مصطفیٰ ہے، زباں خاموش ہے دل بولتا ہے. شعر دیکھیے گا کہ خدا کے بعد جو سب سے بڑا ہے، خدا کے بعد جو سب سے بڑا ہے، ابو طالب کی گودی کا پلا ہے. فرشتوں نے جہاں سجدہ کیا ہے، فرشتوں نے جہاں سجدہ کیا ہے، وہ باب شہر علم مصطفیٰ ہے. اور ابھی آ جاؤ بزم مصطفیٰ میں، ابھی جنت کا دروازہ کھلا ہے. اور بپیشانی کن، بپیشانی کن روز ازل سے محمد مصطفیٰ لکھا ہوا ہے. اور نہیں ہیں آپ پردے میں نہیں ہیں، ہماری آنکھ پر پردہ پڑا ہے. اور جسے ہے کام مدح مصطفیٰ سے، ابد وہ شاعر شیریں نوا ہے. صلوات پڑھیے. ایک اور سلام کچھ اشعار ریحان آدمی کے امام حسین علیہ السلام کی شان میں. جو الفت سرور میں گرفتار نہیں ہے، جو الفت سرور میں گرفتار نہیں ہے نیند کے ماحول میں بیدار نہیں ہے۔ اور جس طرح نہیں بعد محمد کے نبی اور جس طرح نہیں بعد محمد کے نبی اور عباس تیرے بعد علمدار نہیں ہے۔ اور یوں بھاگے ادو سانس اکھڑنے لگی سب کی، گو ہاتھ میں عباس کے تلوار نہیں ہے۔ اور چھ دیکھیے کہ گھر میں ابو طالب کے خدا کا یہ کرم ہے، گھر میں ابو طالب کے خدا کا یہ کرم ہے، جرار ہیں کرار ہیں فرار نہیں ہے۔ اور ان اشکوں کی قیمت میں ملے گی مجھے جنت، یہ اشک عزا اس لیے بیکار نہیں ہے۔ اور توبہ کے عوض مال شفاعت جو خریدے، توبہ کے عوض مال شفاعت جو خریدے، حر جیسا زمانے میں خریدار نہیں ہے۔ آخری شعر پر کہتے کہ مولا تیری مدحت صلہ چشم کرم ہے، ریحان تو اجرت کا طلبگار نہیں ہے۔ صلوات پڑھیں۔ اجازت دیں تو ایک چھوٹا سلام اور پیش کروں۔ یہ میر انیس ظاہر مشہور مرثیہ گو ہیں، ان کی ایک سلام ہے، اس کی زمین میں یہ جناب ریحان آدمی صاحب نے یہ سلام پیش کیا تھا، ٹیلی ویژن پہ ایک دفعہ آیا تھا یہاں۔ مشہور ان کا سلام ہے، جو شبیہ امام زمان کھینچتے ہیں، تصور میں تصویر جاں کھینچتے ہیں۔ تو اس زمین میں انہوں نے ایک سلام پڑھا تھا کہ جو تصویر تشنا لباں کھینچتے ہیں، سوئے کربلا قلب و جاں کھینچتے ہیں۔ اگر کوئی حر ہو تو جنت کے مالک، مقدر میں خلق اما کھینچتے ہیں۔ اور ہم اہل عزا فرش مجلس پا آ کر زمین کی طرف آسماں کھینچتے ہیں۔ اور اگر حب حیدر سے دامن ہے خالی، تو سانسیں بھی ہم رائگاں کھینچتے ہیں۔ اور زباں جس نے کھولی ہے بغض علی میں، زباں اس کی اہل زباں کھینچتے ہیں۔ اور بجھا کر چراغوں کو عاشور کی شب، شہیدی حد دوستاں کھینچتے ہیں۔ بنا سر کوئی پار کر لے تو کر لے، زمین پر جو غازی نشاں کھینچتے ہیں۔ کلیجہ پھسک کا نکل آیا کھنچ کر، سنا تھا شہیدی سنا کھینچتے ہیں۔ کہا شہ سے اصغر نے دیجئے اجازت، ستمگر سے تیر و کماں کھینچتے ہیں۔ عجب خواب صغرا نے ایک روز دیکھا، بہن کی ادو بالیاں کھینچتے ہیں۔ جو کل برگ و گل سے چھلے جا رہے تھے، وہی پاؤں اب ریڑیاں کھینچتے ہیں۔ اور زمیں کربلا کی لرزنے لگی ہے، ادو بستر ناتواں کھینچتے ہیں۔ کہ میر انیس نے خود کہا تھا اپنے سلام کے آخری شعر میں کہ یہ بڑا مشکل زمین ہے، کہ انیس اس زمین میں بہت کم ہے وسعت، کمیتے قلم کی انا کھینچتے ہیں۔ اس پر انہوں نے فرمایا کہ جب خدائے سخن کی زمین پر قلم کو جو اہل قلم ہیں کہاں کھینچتے ہیں۔ اور یہ ثابت ہے ریحان ہم چشم نم سے، غم شہ میں سیل رواں کھینچتے ہیں۔ صلوات
Mas ben sıvat. Selam us पर जो कैदी भी है बीमार भी है हो सलाम उस पर जो कैदी भी है बीमार भी है पाँव में आबले आबलों में खार भी है हो सलाम उस पर वाज बुलंद सलवात मुझे खल्क में इन आँखों ने क्या क्या देखा मुझे खल्क में इन आँखों ने क्या क्या देखा पर कहीं से ते पैगंबर सना आका देखा मुझे खल्क में ज़ुल्म-ए मुजरिम सज्जाद ने क्या क्या देखा ज़ुल्म-ए मुजरिम सज्जाद ने क्या क्या देखा घर लुटा कैद हुए बाप का लाशा देखा घर लुटा कैद हुए बाप का लाशा देखा मुझे खल्क में मैंने देखा अली असगर का गला खून में तर मैंने देखा अली असगर का गला खून में तर मैंने ज़ख्मी अली अकबर का कलेजा ایک گھٹڑی شہدی پشت پہ لائے اس میں ایک گھٹڑی شہدی پشت پہ لائے اس میں میں نے ٹکڑے ہوئے قاسم کا سراپا دیکھا میں نے ٹکڑے ہوئے قاسم کا سراپا دیکھا مجری خلق میں نے دیکھا شہ مظلوم کو خنجر کے تلے میں نے دیکھا شہ مظلوم کو خنجر کے تلے میں نے بے گھور کفن بھائی کا لاشا دیکھا میں نے بے گھور کفن بھائی کا لاشا دیکھا مجری خلق میں جا کے زینب نے مدینے میں کہا صغرا سے جا کے زینب نے مدینے میں کہا صغرا سے کہوں کس منہ سے کہ پردیس میں کیا کیا دیکھا کہوں کس منہ سے کہ پردیس میں کیا کیا دیکھا مجری خلق میں ان آنکھوں نے کیا کیا دیکھا پر کہیں سے تے پیمبر سنا آقا دیکھا مجری خلق میں بس بلند سے
Sorry, can we ask everyone to please move a little bit here for any people that are coming a little bit later? Thank you.
شہید پروفیسر سکھتے کلام اور کربلا کے جان سے خطاب کر رہے ہیں. صلوات محمد
اے چاند کربلا کے تو نے جو دیکھے ہوں گے اترے تھے اس زمین پر عرش بری کے تارے. اے چاند کربلا کے اے چاند جلوہ گر ہے ہاشم کا چاند یہاں پر خیرات روشنی کی لے لیجیو یہاں سے. اے چاند اس زمین پر رکھیو ہمیشہ ٹھنڈک سوتے جو ہیں یہاں پر زہرا کے ہیں یہ پیارے. اے چاند تسنیم و سلسبیل و کوثر کے ہیں یہ مالک مارے گئے جو پیاسے اس نہر کے کنارے. حر اور حبیب جیسے جانباز اور احبا مارے گئے یہاں پر انصار شاہدی کے. اے چاند مارے گئے یہاں پر بے دردیوں ستم سے. زینب کے دونوں پیارے مسلم کے دونوں بیٹے پامال ہو رہی تھی قاسم کی لاش رن میں. عباس اور سرور تھے ان کے ٹکڑے. اے چاند کربلا کے بازو کٹے یہاں پر عباس با وفا کے اذن وغا نہ پایا پانی بھی نہ لا پائے. اس سرزمین پہ گزرا سرور پہ یہ بھی صدمہ سینے پہ کھائی برچھی ہم شکل مصطفیٰ نے. ستم لگا کے گردن چھری پہ سر کی بازو چھدا پہ در کا دونوں تڑپ تڑپ کے پیاسے جہاں سے گزرے اے چاند کربلا کے اس بن میں ایک بچی بابا کو ڈھونڈتی تھی بکھرے ہوئے تھے لاشیں سر بکھرے ہوئے پڑے تھے جب سر بریدہ لاشیں پھر یہ بھی نہ تو دیکھا وہ غم رسیدہ بچی سینے پہ سو رہی تھی بے سر پہ در سے لپٹی اے چاند بازو بندھے یہیں پر پہلے پہر حرم کے اس سرزمین سے نکلے سجاد سر جھکا کے شہزادی جناحی مالک ہے کربلا کا کس کی مجال آئے جب تک نہ وہ بلائے اے چاند کربلا کے تو نے جو دیکھے ہوں گے اترے تھے اس زمین پر عرش بری کے تارے اے چاند کربلا کے سوا
الفاتحة. The heat in Karbala is something that's often referenced and is generally well documented and well known. But the lonely and empty nights were even more uncomfortable. Why was that? For it becomes cold at night. For it becomes cold at night. On the day of Ashura, back during the height of the sun and the heat of the battle, it was burning. But now, it becomes cold at night. Even the days pass with only numbness to heat. For the closing of Haidar's sun's pure eyes killed the will of the sun to still rise. It conceded, for it conceded as did the stars and the moon. For once the moon of Banu Hashim was killed, Hussein followed too soon. Without each other, only a few hours they'd endured. The comfort of paradise and its ease was ensured, but nightly the orphans would squirm. The orphans would squirm, waiting for light, for when the sun now sets, it becomes cold at night. When they ask for blankets, Zainab struggles to respond. When they ask for blankets, Zainab struggles to respond, for some things even from her power are beyond. But they still ask for a covering, a shelter from the breeze. Their mind would be scarred, but their body be at ease. I ask you, O young princes of the tent, I ask you, princesses from Ahmad's descent, pray your prayer for a covering God bypasses, for heaven forbid he grants you a covering like Abbas's. Neck to toe in a layer of his own blood was concealed. Neck to toe in a layer of his own blood was concealed, a coat of dark red, a saint's armor and his shield. Now he Abbas watches. Now he only watches from a spear length's tall height. How without him, for the orphans, it becomes cold at night. They lose their innate ability to sleep. For the orphans, they lose their innate ability to sleep. For their eyelids to rest was a task too steep. But these eyes were not alone in observing the insanity, for a whole nother army watched the face of pure vanity. Do they not hear our cries? Do they not hear our cries if they cannot add this to their lies? To call them Muslim, nothing short of profanity, for these animals share nothing in our faith or humanity. This anxiety, it keeps us awake. Oh, the anxiety, it keeps us awake, but they were able to put Asghar in a sleep-like state. The dust as his blanket and the clay as his bed, no need for a pillow, for they took off his head. Rabab would lose consciousness. Rabab would lose consciousness, her face pure white. Asghar's grave now with dew, for it becomes cold at night. The children were too young to even comprehend their oppression. As the cursed strode into the tents with aggression, could they be here to answer our cries? Could they be here to answer our cries? Have they heard our Father's voice from the skies? For with each step towards the camp they'd take, the Tasbih in Zainab's hand would shake. For these beads will soon scatter. For these beads will soon scatter. The silence of the night will soon shatter. The orphans, for their faces like their cradles will soon burn. It would pain them to move, yet to their mothers they'd turn. They'd say, despite the fires and tents being alight, when the flames were out they remembered, it becomes cold at night. To rest was now all they requested. But to rest was now all they requested, praying for a day to go without being tested. Sakina begs Auntie Fizza, find us a place to get rest, but she knows the one place that Sakina sleeps best. To every other pillow and bed she's a guest, for her home is that warmth only felt from Hussein's chest. Sakina was always taught to share. Sakina was always taught to share. To her friends and enemies to show only care. But her face has suddenly grew old. Sakina, her face has suddenly grew old to someone triple her age, as she witnessed shimmer crushing above Abdullah's rib cage. For her bed is now broken. For her bed is now broken, Sakina would sleep on the dust, while Hussein's blood making shimmer's dagger now rust, for resisting oppression is in his blood. Sakina sleeps by his remains. For Sakina sleeps by his remains, tosses left, shifts right, as she whispers emptily, "Oh Father, it becomes cold at night. Oh Father, it becomes cold at night."
Mari tiga bulan tersalawat.
Muhammad wa ali Muhammad salawat.
محمد وعلى محمد صلى
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Can I ask that everybody who has a phone with either Google or a Quran app, open your phone and turn it to chapter number 5, Surah Al-Ma'idah, verses 1 and 2, so that we can read the ayahs of Quran together and we can learn and benefit from reciting together, inshallah. So if you have your phone, go to Google or your Quran apps, chapter number 5, Surah Al-Ma'idah, verses 1 and 2, inshallah. Can we have a Surah Al-Fatiha for the following marhumeen? Qamar Fatima, daughter of Sayyid Kalbi Ja'far. Hadi Imam Zaidi, son of Sayyid Askari Hassan Zaid. Sayyid Manzoor Hussain Zaidi, and Mrs. Naseem Akhtar. For these 5, and for all of our marhumeen, if we can have a Surah Al-Fatiha. For the love of our 4th Imam, Zain al-Abidin, let us have a loud salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين. الحمد لله الذي هدانا لهذا وما كنا لنهتدي لولا أن هدانا الله. والصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين خاتم النبيين سيدنا الممجد بشير المصدق مصطفى الأمجد محمود الأحمد أبي القاسم محمد وعلى أهل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين المعصومين ولعنة الله على الظالمين من الأولين والآخرين. أما بعد، فقد قال الله سبحانه وتعالى في كتابه المجيد وفرقانه الحميد وقوله الحق. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. يا أيها الذين آمنوا أوفوا بالعقود أحلت لكم بهيمة الأنعام إلا ما يتلى عليكم غير محل الصيد وأنتم حرم إن الله يحكم ما يريد. يا أيها الذين آمنوا لا تحلوا شعائر الله ولا الشهر الحرام ولا الهدي والقلائد ولا آمين البيت الحرام يبتغون فضلا من ربهم رضوانا وإذا حللتم فاصطادوا ولا يجرمنكم شنآن قوم أن صدوكم عن المسجد الحرام أن تعتدوا وتعاونوا على البر والتقوى ولا تعاونوا على الإثم والعدوان واتقوا الله إن الله شديد العقاب. آمنا بالله. صدق الله العلي العظيم. صلوات على محمد وآل محمد. Awaited Savior of humanity, Imam al-Mahdi alayhi salam, my respected elders, brothers and sisters, Assalamu alaikum jami'an wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. أعظم الله وجورنا وأجوركم لمصابنا إمام زين العابدين صلوات الله وسلامه عليه. In 1975, there was a study that was put out by one of the institutions in the United States of America. And it was contributed to by 3 leading political scientists. One of them was from the United States of America, one was from France, and one was from Japan. The idea was that they would look at the state of democracy across the Western world, also in Japan, and try to analyze what were the challenges in democracy and how should the governments, especially in the Western world, respond to those challenges. The title of this work is very important. It's called The crisis of democracy. The crisis of democracy. What they wrote was that the challenge of democracy in 1975 was that there was too much democracy. They wrote that too many people, too many organizations, too many institutions had a say. And so, because there was so much demand, because there were so many voices, because there was so much access for people to engage in the political system, their advice in this dossier, called The Crisis of Democracy, was that government should try to limit the access of people towards democracy. We need to shut people off from being able to have access to the way in which government works, the way in which government runs. As you know, in the 1960s and 1970s, there were particular challenges across the Western world. For example, particularly in the United States of America, there was the challenge of the second civil rights movement, where the black community were now demanding their civil rights. You had Martin Luther King, you had Malcolm X. The idea was, fine, we're no longer slaves, but do we actually have rights to vote? Are we able to even sit in the same bus? Do we have to sit at the back of the bus? Are we able to drink from the same fountains? Are we able to go to the same schools? Or is segregation the inheritance of the end of slavery? So of course in the 1960s, one of the great movements for democracy was civil rights. Elsewhere, in terms of democracy and being able to have your say as a people, in the time of the 1960s and 70s was the Vietnam War. Now people standing in front of tanks, people are handing out flowers, there is a movement to try to stop weapons of mass destruction, and so on and so forth. And because now there was more of an adversarial approach to the government, which was being proliferated through the open media, these scholars, political science, analyzed what were the challenges at the time and how should they respond. So what did they say? There is a crisis in democracy. Too many people have access. Too many people from amongst you are able to stand for government. Rather, it should be an elite few that decide the direction of the country, and the rest of us rabble have to just follow along. In fact, this has always been the idea of Western democracy. It should be divided into two. You have the elite, and then you have the rest of us that just champions and picks the person from amongst the elite that will end up governing us. It may be someone from Eton, here in Britain, or it may be a Donald Trump who comes from an elite class in the United States of America. So the idea behind the right wing is that we have to pick one of our masters and then we vote for that master. The idea behind the Democrats is that you should have a little bit more access, but the idea is still to pick from these very same masters. What they decided to do in response to this dossier of the crisis of democracy was that we need to limit the access of people so that they don't have enough say, so they don't be able to make their own rules. If you give the rabble too much power, then they might actually decide what's good for them. But really, it should be the corporations that decide what's good for you. It should be the elite that decide what's good for you. It should be those people that write the laws that decide what's good for you. You shouldn't decide what is good for you. And so what we need to do is limit the access to democracy and ensuring our hegemony, our power, our dominion remains over the people. So how do they do it? The answer is very simple. Something that they've done through time and history, throughout every course of government. And that was to make a group of people apathetic. To make a group of people not really care, not really bothered. not really have access to be able to participate at the greatest level. There is a cut-off from what the mass has an opportunity to decide for itself. To make them just sit back and say, we can't really make a change in society. At the end of the day, no matter how much we protest, no matter how much we write emails, no matter how much we write a petition, nothing really changes in society, so why bother to participate in the first place? Let us just carry on with our lives, let us just be good individual people, let us just bring up good children, whatever happen will happen. Let's just make them apathetic. So in 1975, when this most important dossier came out, and was presented to government, government stated the way in which we need to reduce access to democracy, to douse this crisis that is in front of us, the way to do it was to ensure that there is an apathetic approach towards government, that people don't really feel like they can participate in the government. What do we find? We found an increase in how much sports we're told we need to play. We found an increase in the amount in which Hollywood was producing. We found an increase in consumption, an increase in advertising, and every way which was possible was created in order to make sure that the mass populace became apathetic, so that they wouldn't champion for their God-given rights. They wouldn't want a better, more just society. Homelessness? Yeah, it's bad, but we can't really do anything about it. Nuclear weapons? Yeah, it's bad, but we can't really do anything about it. Global warming? Yeah, I know we're going to destroy our own planet in 20 years' time, but, we can't really do anything about it. The idea was to make you and I completely apathetic, so that we're not engaged in the civil rights and the civil movement that we have a divine right to be engaged in. This has always been there. No society is any different in the reality of one power group wishing to keep its elitism over another group, to keep down another group. In the Holy Roman Empire, you'll remember that they actually had a term to keep the masses apathetic. Just keep them at the minimal level of happiness so they don't demand their rights. What was that term called? Bread and circuses. The idea was, if we give enough bread out to the people, then they don't go too hungry. Therefore, they won't demand their rights. And the idea of circuses was, well, if we give them enough entertainment, then they won't demand their rights, because they are satiated with the bare minimum that will keep them happy in life. Therefore, they won't protest, they won't demand, they won't ask, they won't be engaged. The idea is just to make them apathetic so that they don't participate in their rights that are present within society. At the time of the fourth Imam, Zainul Abidin salawatullah wa the masters of making people apathetic were the accursed tribe of Banu Umayyah, la'natullahi alayhim ajma'in. Banu Umayyah had mastered this methodology of making a group of people apathetic, not really engaged, not bothered about society. This started with the master politician, Muawiyah ibn Abi Sufyan. This was inherited by Yazid ibn Muawiyah, and this was followed through by Yazid at the time of the fourth Imam, As-Sajjad, salawatullah wa salamuhu alayhi. When Imam alayhi salam inherited the movement, the revolution of Karbala from his father, the master of the martyrs, Imam alayhi salam had to awaken a sleeping giant, the Ummah, the Shia community, that had inherited such apathy that in their tens of thousands they called Hussein ibn Ali and then left him on the battlefield to become slaughtered. Can you imagine a more apathetic group? Unbothered, not engaged in their own movement that they had so demanded, when they had written tens of thousands of letters to Hussein ibn Ali and then pledged allegiance to his ambassador, only to leave him to be slaughtered on the 10th of Muharram. The fourth Imam alayhi salam inherits this apathy and has to create a social awakening such that they would awaken from their deep slumber. But the delicacy of this movement was such that if certain leadership was to now go against the fourth Imam, it would begin to unravel the Shia movement, and as a result, the fourth, the fifth, and the sixth Imams would also become majboor, would also become madnoom, and unable to make that movement, because instead of working with the fourth Imam, they became independent away from the fourth Imam, and all of those movements unraveled one by one. Inshallah, our discussion this afternoon is to look at those movements very briefly, just to stitch together what you already know in history, and just to see the movement take shape from the first Imam to the second, to the third, to the fourth, ultimately to the fifth, and try to think about that history for our own selves today and see how apathy can enter into the Shia community, how anarchy can enter into the Shia community. And actually there is supposed to be a balance between the two. And the reality is that the moment we become apathetic to the Imam's movement, we are lost. The moment there is an anarchy and an independence, a separation from the Imam's movement, we become lost. Actually, there has to be a balance where we are in line with the goals of the movement of Karbala. Because if we are either what we were before Karbala or after Karbala, Karbala cannot manifest itself into the movement that it always desired to be a movement of. Only when we understand the history of that, we will understand our present day challenges, and then we will understand the apathy that is present within the Shia community ourselves. We will mention now very brief points of history, and you will see this development take place, inshallah. Let us turn to the time of our first Imam, Amir al-Mu'mineen Ali ibn Abi Talib. Imam alayhi salam had a number of battles, as you know. Imam had the battle of Siffin, Imam had the battle of Jamal, Imam had the battle of Nahrawan. By the time it came to the latter battles, especially towards the end of Siffin and towards Nahrawan, Nahj al-Balagha highlights the complaint of Amir al-Mu'mineen alayhi salam towards his own Shia. Especially in the battle of Siffin, Shia had become apathetic. They had become tired of war, and they no longer wanted to rise with Imam alayhi salam, despite him saying that if you are willing to engage in one more battle, we will be able to finish off Muawiyah ibn Abi Sufyan once and for all. One last stand, one last movement, and we will rid ourselves of Muawiyah altogether. Now in Nahj al-Balagha, it is very interesting because the Imam begins to describe the apathy of his own Shia and how lazy they become towards the Imam's movement. He actually says to them, if I were to call you to battle against Muawiyah in the summer, you would say it's too hot, let's fight in the winter. And if I was to call you in the winter and say let us raise the sword to finish Muawiyah off, you will say it's too cold, let us fight in the summer. This was the attitude of the Shia. Now when the Imam alayhi salam himself is struck on his forehead and he dies, Salamullahi alayhi, his son, the second Imam, Hassan al-Mujtaba, salawatullah wa salam, ascends to the honorable rank of Imamat, and now he takes on the responsibility to try to finish off Muawiyah once and for all. You also know the history. He calls his army. He's about to go to war. The hadith says that as he is sitting on his horse, the amount of Shia that have either been bribed by Muawiyah, or have been offered political position by Muawiyah, or have been given a seed of fitna by Muawiyah in order to create division within the Shia community, is so much that the Shia of Imam al-Hasan alayhi salam attack Imam al-Hasan alayhi salam. What does the hadith say? Amongst his own Shia, they say, we don't want to go to war. He says, let's move, let's ride out. In his sermonizing, in trying to bring them to war, there is such a split, and the amount of assassins that have been bought from amongst the Shia, they now come, and one of them comes with what is described in the books of history as an axe, and strikes Imam al-Hasan alayhi salam on his thigh, drags Imam al-Hasan off from his horse onto the floor, and is about to strike Imam al-Hasan. The loyal Shia are able to grab him, drag him to safety, and they end up killing the assassin who is out to kill Imam al-Hasan alayhi salam. Imam al-Hasan realizes, my Shia have been compromised. I don't have the numbers. I don't have the loyalty. So now, I'm forced into a peace treaty with Muawiyah ibn Abi Sufyan. What does he have to do? Abdicate his position and temporarily give Khilafat to Banu Umayyah, under the condition that if you are to die, you do not give your Khilafat to Yazid, it goes to me, or if I die, it goes to Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam, and you know the rest is history as to what Muawiyah decides to do. As you know, he gives Khilafat to the Mal'oon Yazid, and now Yazid demands allegiance from Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam and the Shia. As you already know in the history, Yazid calls 4 of the leading Muslim personalities to Mecca for a conference, including Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam, including Ibn Abbas, Abdullah bin Zubair, Abdullah ibn Umar. He calls them to a private meeting, and he sits them all down in their chairs, and then what does he do? He calls his guards, and he says, 2 guards to every 1 man. Get your sword and point them to the neck of each and every one of these 4 people. This is in history. Yazid then says, Muawiyah then says that you will accept the allegiance of Yazid ibn Muawiyah afterwards. And if you don't, if any one of you raises even part of your voice to oppose me, each and every one of these swords, these 2 swords that is at your neck, will sever you immediately. That will be the end of it. They stay silent. Muawiyah comes out, announces to the Muslim Ummah that Yazid is now the Caliph, and says these great 4 personalities have accepted Yazid. Later on, now Yazid demands the allegiance of Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam, and famously, as you know, Imam al-Hussein says, a man like me cannot do allegiance to a man like him. Mithli la yubayu mithla. We are the family of prophethood. The angels descend to and ascend from our house. We are the place of revelation. He is a drunkard. Mithli ma yubayu mithla. A man like me can never give bay'ah to a man like Yazid. And so now, the Imam goes to Hajj, where he's met by tens of thousands of people from across the Ummah. People as far as Egypt, Kufa, Syria are coming, pledging their allegiance to Hussein ibn Ali. According to one narration, Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam receives 600 letters in one day in Mecca, pledging allegiance to his movement. Rise, We are tired of Banu Umayyah. Those 600 letters weren't just one name. Sometimes one of those letters had petitions of 50, 100 names on them. So what does the Imam do? He sends his ambassador, Muslim ibn Aqil alayhi salam, to Kufa. He is given a pledge of 18,000 swords. And as you know, all but maybe 5 of them leave. Under what? Under threat, penalty of death. You have a choice. You can either remain silent, or if you want to side with Muslim ibn Aqil, we will arrest you, we will arrest your family, we will confiscate your belongings, we will kill you, and we will kill your family. What happened? Not only did those 18,000 people leave Husayn ibn Ali, those very same 18,000 were on the battlefield against Husayn ibn Ali the very following month. The Imam, as he's standing on his own, as he enters into the battlefield on the 10th of Muharram, what does he say? Are you not the ones who wrote to me? What did some of them say? We have no knowledge of what you say. Such liars. The Quran says about such people, "Unzur kayfa kadhabu ala anfusihim." See how they lie upon their own selves. They can actually lie, knowing the truth, that they were the people who called Husayn ibn Ali with their own pens. They signed the petitions. They then gave the Pledge of Allegiance to Muslim ibn Aqil. But then they were the ones with the unsheathed swords ready to butcher Husayn ibn Ali. Now what do you see here from your history? You see here a pattern of apathy that ends up turning not only into laziness, disrepair, not caring about the challenges of society, but actually through that laziness, they are actually turned against the Imam when he comes. It is normal for them to become so lazy. They first, look at the evolution of it. Look at the evolution. They first rejected the war with Amir al-Mu'mineen. Then they actually attacked Imam al-Hassan. Then they slaughtered Imam al-Hussein. Can you see the evolution of the apathy? Where it started and where it came. Now the same way any other government seeks to create apathy today, or in the Holy Roman Empire, the tricks of the trade are the same. Muawiyah did the same. In 1975, the Republican Party did the same. Thatcherism and Reaganism did the same. It's no different. The idea is to make you apathetic so you don't feel like you can make any change in society. Homelessness? Yeah, it's bad, but what can we do? It's for the government to sort out. Well, how's that going? Homelessness has doubled under this government. People's need for food banks, because they're going hungry, has doubled under this government. But yeah, so what? What can I do about it? I'm just a Shia. I'll cry over Hussein. I'll say labbaik, but you know, I'll go on a demonstration from here to there with some black placards, some Arabic writing on it, and I'll do my matzam, but I can't really change anything about society. That's the same attitude that was present at the time of Banu Umayyah, the same attitude that they have designed for you to have today in the crisis of the democracy, because they don't want you involved. The more powerful the people are, the more difficult it is for those elites to be able to keep their power. So what do they want from you? To be apathetic. Spend your time watching as many sitcoms as you can. Spend your time watching as much sport as you can. It's amazing. There's a pre-game show that spends a whole hour talking about the game. Then there's a 90-minute game and a 15-minute highlight of the game. Then there's highlights for an hour after the game. And I promise you, there's no intelligent analysis. All it is just replaying the exact game that you saw, and you've got some semi-expert telling you, describing to you what you've already seen. But don't worry, spend your Saturday afternoon doing that. Or I tell you what, spend your Saturday afternoon walking up and down the mall to buy things that you don't actually need. Be apathetic. They don't want you to be aware. They don't want you to read. They don't want you to be engaged. They don't want you to know what is going on. Because the moment the rabble knows what's going on, they may just awaken. And if they were to really awake and use their power, and I tell you what, it won't be the corporations that are in charge. It won't be our friends from Eton that are in charge. It will be you that decides your own future. And so we have to keep you as ignorant and as apathetic as possible. Now, Banu Umayyah were masters of this. Masters. I'll give you examples. You already know this in history. Just piece it together in your own mind, what they used to do. The very first thing that they did was that they played with their aqaid. They played with the theology of Islam. First thing they said was, we need to start writing certain tafsir and certain ahadith from the Prophet, attribute it to him, so that the people think this is what the Prophet said. Muawiyah used to pay scribes 400,000 dinar to have factories of hadith and tafsir. What did the hadith say? If there is a Muslim leader, you have to accept him. You cannot rise up against the Muslim leader. His bay'ah is wajib upon you. His authority, his sultaniyat, is authoritative upon you. The fact that Muawiyah paid allegiance to Yazid as the caliph after him, he is the caliph after you. What do the Wahhabiyya say today? It was haram shar'an for Hussein ibn Ali to rise against Yazid. Why? Because he was the legitimate caliph of the time. Why? Because there's some obscure hadith that is narrated by somebody one time that said, if there is a caliph, his right has to be accepted. So what do the people do? Well, we have a caliph. Now we have to accept him. And now every tyrannical caliph that came along is acceptable to us. Mansur al-Dawaniqi, Hajjaj ibn Yusuf al-Thaqafi, Muawiyah ibn Abi Sufyan, all of them, they're all legitimate because someone somewhere one time paid allegiance to him. Therefore the rest of us have to pay allegiance to him. Really? So if Fir'aun is there, you and I also have to pay allegiance to Fir'aun? It's the same argument today. Al Saud, you can't do anything about them. These are legitimate kings. Kings, Baba. Where did you get the idea that there should be a monarchical system in Islam? The Holy Prophet of Islam said, Al-ulama warathatul anbiya. The scholars are the inheritors of the Prophet, but now all of a sudden this king is now your legitimate leader. What Islam are you following? This is the first way in which they made this apathy. Your leadership, it's the right leadership. No matter what they do. They can drink, they can play with monkeys, they can kill the grandson of Rasulullah. It's just as righteous and just as legitimate as every other leadership. Another way in which they began to concoct these hadith and change and play with the aqaid was now to create a debate called the debate over Jabr and Tafweed. The idea of Jabr is that God has decided this, therefore you can't say no. And Tafweed is, well, you're completely free to do whatever you want. And therefore, they concocted this idea that everything is Jabr. You are Mujbir. The fact that there is this tyrant caliph, this is what God wanted. So number one, you can't raise against the caliph. And number two, this is what God wanted. The fact that you have Hajjaj ibn Yusuf al-Thaqafi slaughtering tens of thousands of people, this is what God wanted. It's what God desired from the Ummah. And so you can't do anything about it. What happened to the community? It became apathetic. They couldn't rise up because what they had been told was no matter what you do, you don't have a say, you don't know what's going on, you don't have power, and this is the way society is supposed to be. Sound familiar to you? The same tactics that were used in Rome, used in Banu Umayyah, used today. It's no different. And so in light of all this, if you rise with Hussein ibn Ali, we will kill you, we will slaughter your family, the caliph is legitimate, this is what God wanted. You had a generation of Muslims and Shia that just allowed whatever to take place in the name of Islam. Government came, caliph came, ulama came, ideas came, tafasir was written, people couldn't do anything about it. You know, in our words today, they have these different terms for these sorts of things. Don't ask people for charity, because you're going to have donor fatigue. You know this term? There's so much poverty in the world, I know, but if you keep asking for charity, if you keep asking people to give for Majlis, if you keep asking to help the needy, you'll have donor fatigue inside the community. You don't want people to give too much money. Keep yourselves down. Don't change the situation. Don't change your circumstances. Just stay within your positions. Keep yourselves within this little boundary and don't work any more than what you're supposed to, because you can't make a difference in society. It's just the language has changed. The idea is the same. And so in light of these challenges, the fourth Imam alayhi salam inherited this type of society. And he now needed to shift this society somehow. And he now needed to be able to make an awoken society. And what did he do? He did two things. The first was the way in which he decided to oversee the movements of Islam. And the second was the way in which he would move the intellectual and spiritual movements of Islam. The first was what? To move groups of Islam. To oversee the movements of different groups, to bring them together so that they work towards an ultimate goal. The second was to create an intellectual and spiritual movement. Let us talk about these two things. The first was the groups. You will know from your history that there were several different revolutions that started taking place at the time of the fourth Imam. What did we have? We had number one, the Kaysaniya movement. What was the Kaysaniya movement? Kaysaniya movement took Muhammad al-Hanafiya, the stepson of Imam Ali alayhi salam, to be the Imam. And so the fourth Imam had to bring this movement back under the hand of divine imamate. The second movement was what? The son of the fourth Imam by the name of Zayd, who was also trying to create a revolution. The fourth Imam had to make sure that the Zaydiyya movement was within the movement of the fourth Imam. You had another movement at the time of the fourth Imam. You had what was known as the Tawabin, those people who felt regret at not rising for Hussein ibn Ali. And so what did they decide to do? Raise their swords and fight against Banu Umayyah. You had all these different groups, and the fourth group was what? Movement of Mukhtara Thaqafi, who was seeking revenge and blood for what took place on the 10th of Muharram. All these four different revolutions were taking place. The fourth Imam could do a various number of things. He could sit back and do nothing and allow each of these groups to work independent of the Imam. He could work with some of the groups and not all of the groups, and allow some of them to work with the Imam but some of them independent. Or he could try to bring all of them underneath his movement, and then they would in society bring about various different revolutions within society. At the same time, what does Yazid do? Yazid, as you know, in the following year attacks Mecca, doesn't he? He destroys the Kaaba, he rapes women, billah, to the extent that the women who are pregnant in Mecca have their bellies slit open, an unborn child being killed, and those who are not carrying child are raped by the soldiers of Yazid. In light of this, what happened in Karbala, what happened in Kufa, what happened in Sham, what happened in Mecca, revolution after revolution after revolution is taking place. The Imam now tries to bring these revolutions underneath one hand, so he guides these revolutions towards their ultimate goal, which is the overthrowing of Banu Umayyah and bringing a just government under the hand of Ahlul Bayt alayhimus salam. This is one element. The second element was him trying to bring about an intellectual and spiritual revolution. What did he do? He now bequeathed to the Shia and to the Muslim Ummah 3 institutions. You know these very well. What was the first? He wanted people to shed what they had been doing, enlivening their humanity by crying over the martyrdom of Hussein ibn Ali. When you cry, you become human again. You and I, God forbid, may have some enmity between us. Maybe our fathers didn't like each other. Maybe we grew up having a fight one day. Maybe you and I, we fell out over business. Maybe I said something about you. But when you cry for Hussein ibn Ali, there is a humanity that enters back into your heart that shifts you as a human being. And so the Imam wanted people to shed all the evils that had accumulated around themselves. That they were the ones that could neglect Amir al-Mu'mineen. They were the ones who could fight against Hussein ibn Ali. They are the ones that could butcher Hussein ibn Ali. But if you cry, you will receive your humanity again. Come, let us hear the azah of Hussein ibn Ali.
محمد وعلى محمد صلوات.
You will shed that apathy because you will stand against oppression no matter which sword is now against your neck. This was the first institution of the intellectual and spiritual revolution that Zainul Abidin alayhi salam oversaw. Second was what? Giving Risalatul Huquq, to bequeath to the Muslim Ummah, and in particular to the Shia, the rights of everyone and everything in existence. The rights of your neighbors, the rights of your teachers, the rights of your children, the rights of your stomach, the rights of your tongue. If you want to know how to act as a human being in terms of society, in terms of your own self, read Risalat al-Huquq. This will shift the thinking of the community. Because now you will know how to act as a just, balanced human being. And the third thing that he wished to bequeath to the Muslim Ummah was what? Sahifa al-Sajjadiyya. In the idea that I will recreate the ruhaniyya, the spirituality of the human being. Think about this really carefully. Just think about your history and piece these things together. At the time of Amir al-Mu'mineen, you are talking about a man of such spiritual capacity that the Shia around him are bewildered by his spirituality. Think about the narrations that you know so well and what the Shia were seeing and experiencing at the time of Amir al-Mu'mineen. One hadith mentions that after the martyrdom of Amir alayhi salam, Muawiyah ibn Abi Sufyan calls one of the elderly Shia to him. And he tries to make this elderly man angry against Amir al-Mu'mineen. You know what he says? He says, I understand you fought and you had your sons fight in the battle of Siffin. Yes. So where are your sons? They were all martyred. He said, now you are left on your own. You're an elderly man, all your 4 sons aren't there to look after you, they're not there to earn for you, which means you're in a state of absolute neglect and poverty. don't you hate Ali ibn Abi Talib because he killed your 4 sons? This is Muawiyah saying to the Shia. You know what this elderly man did? He was so old, his back was bent. And he decided that when I say this next point, I don't want to be bent as if I'm in some sort of humility towards Muawiyah. I want to say these next words in a way of pride of having my Imam. So the hadith says he ties a rope around himself to straighten his back. And now he looks at Muawiyah directly in the face and he says, should I tell you why I love Ali ibn Abi Talib? Should I tell you why I never leave Ali ibn Abi Talib? Yes, my sons died in his way and now I'm in a state of neglect and difficulty. But should I tell you why I love Ali? I saw Ali standing in the mihrab of Kufa in the darkness of the night when he thought no one was watching him. And as he stood, he was calling out to his Lord and stating in a violent way, shaking in a violent shake and saying, ah, my Lord, what do I have to offer you on the Day of Judgment?
Muhammad wa ali Muhammad salawat.
This is Ali, the one who lifted the gates of Khaybar, who is saying, my Lord, what do I have to offer you on the Day of Judgment? This is the Ali that the Prophet said that the strike of Ali is greater than the worship of the ins and the jinn put together. And this is the Ali that says, my Lord, what do I have to offer you on the Day of Judgment? This is why I love him. Look at the ruhaniyya, the spirituality that the Shia were inheriting at the time of Amir al-Mu'mineen. What does he say when he's walking with Kumail, his great disciple, through the graveyard? He says, oh Kumail, what sprinkles in you overflows in me. You know the little bit of spirituality that you feel? I'm encompassed by it. I don't have anyone to tell what is within here. So what does Ali do? He has to talk to the wells. And the wells begin to bubble up in response to the kalam of Ali ibn Abi Talib. Think about this. This is the spirituality that the Shia are surrounded by. But by the time Muawiyah takes over Khilafat for 10 years, and Yazid takes over Khilafat for 3 years, he's now butchered Hussein ibn Ali. He has now all but bought out the Shia. He has now but subdued the Shia. The Shia are so apathetic, they don't even remember Ali ibn Abi Talib. Now Zayn al-Abidin has to come and enliven the spirituality. What does he do? He bequeaths his Shia to inherit Sahifa, so that in the darkness of the night, whilst the spies of Banu Umayyah are in every house and in every masjid, they are reciting dua to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. They are awakening. There is a zalzala, there is an earthquake taking place. Slowly these people are waking up one by one. You want to move with my son Zayd? Here is my son Zayd. Here is the revolution. Move with me. Because Zayd is underneath my hand. You want to move in the movement of Mukhtar al-Thaqafi? Here is the movement of Mukhtar. Move with Mukhtar. It is silently under my auspices. You want to move with the Tawabin? The movement is with me. Overthrew Banu Umayyah. It is silently underneath my movement. You want to work with the Kaysaniyya? He is not really an imam. He himself went to the Kaaba and he said, who is the imam? And the Kaaba and the black stone spoke and said, Ali ibn al-Hussein is my imam. Move with this man. He is under my auspices. The imam had to bring a group of people out of apathy and into a state of harakat, into a state of movement. This was the legacy of the fourth Imam. The problem was what? The problem was that each and every one of these movements ended up departing from the hand of the Imam. The Zaydiyya movement, Zayd himself was with the Imam. The way the Ahlul Bayt alayhimussalam have praised Zayd, it is a degree under in which they have praised the rest of the A'imma alayhimussalam. It was the people around Zayd al-Shaheed that decided to become independent of Zayn al-Abidin and move away from what he was doing. The Tawabin was initially under the hand of the Imam. They departed, they moved away from the Imam, to the extent that you know yourself, when those very same people came to the sixth Imam and said, Yabna Rasulullah, we are ready to rise, the Imam called over one of his companions and said, sit inside the oven, the tanur. What did the companion do? He jumped inside. He said to that companion, do the same. He said, we can't do this. At the beginning, the Tawabin were truthful, but they moved away from the movement of the Imam. They left him. All of these movements, bubbling, working together, collaborating, and eventually they departed from the hand of the Imam and they went into their own independence, and this is why the Imam was unable to continue with the movement of Karbala. What did it become? It ended up becoming a movement of the fifth Imam that was solely about teaching, the sixth Imam that was about teaching, and eventually when the seventh Imam's movement started, what did they do? They put him in jail for half of his Imamate. By then, the entire movement of Karbala had all but died out. What am I trying to say to you, brothers and sisters? You will see here three elements to history at the time of your Imams. Number one, apathy. First Imam, second Imam, third Imam. At the time of the third Imam, there is a great movement and genuineness to call the Imam. But now the government of Banu Umayyah subdue the Shia. How? By saying, this is God's will, you can't make a change, you have to just follow the leadership no matter how evil they are, and if you try to move for the Imam, we will cut you. Then the movement of the fourth Imam starts. He creates the bubble. He creates the movement, the uprising that the third Imam always wanted to create. But people started to become independent of the Imam. They left him, and as a result, it ended up with the seventh Imam in jail for half of his life. By then, the movement had all but died. I want to ask you a question. Think about this very carefully. Are we in one of those states? Or do we have Shia across all three of those states? Apathy, movement, and then independence away from the Imam's message. I will tell you, in my humble experience, Shia are across all three, ahsantum. You have some groups of Shia that are apathetic. You beg, kick, and scream. It's just on the tongue. The very most that they will do is maybe turn up to a majlis, maybe turn up to a julus. But beyond that, there's no real movement from them. There's no plan, there's no strategy, there's no organization. It is just apathy. And the moment someone says, remain apathetic, they will fall back into their apathy. Saturday comes, they'll sit there in front of the TV for the weekend. They'll binge watch Netflix. They will spend their time walking up and down the city centre, the mall, buying whatever they can waste their money on. The moment there is an opportunity to change society, they won't be engaged. They're no different to a carrier bag that is just being blown in the wind left, right and centre. Someone tells them to move this way, they will move that way. Some people tell them to move that way, they will move that way. This is one group of the Shia today. Second are those who are in the state of movement, harakat. They are seeking to make some sort of change in their society for the sake of the Imam, for the sake of goodness. There are so many social justice movements that are taking place. It's so big to enumerate. And especially my young brothers and sisters who are at that age of being 12, 15, 18, 22, 25, you should be at the peak of movement. There is so much going on in university. There is so much going on in terms of who is Hussein. There is so much going on in terms of Ahlul Bayt TV, Ahlul Bayt TV. There is so much opportunity. Decide which movement you want to be involved in and participate in one of them or two of them. You've been given a God-given skill set. Participate in that movement. Don't be like the apathetic Shia, especially during your age of youth. Then you have the third group of Shia, that they're doing things in the name of the Imam, but really it's just independent from the Imam. You have certain groups, they'll do azar, but the way of their azar is so antithetical to the actual movement of the Imam, it bears no relationship to the Imam whatsoever. The ghulu that comes from these people, in all languages, in Farsi, in Arabic, in English, in Urdu. And then they're saying, Labbaik ya Hussein. La labbaik, what labbaik is this? You know, we have poetry today from people. Abbas created creation. Ali created creation. Zuljana was a martyr. Where are you getting these things from? Is this the aqa'id of Ahlul Bayt alayhim salam, or you just want to create your own religion? If you want to create your own religion, Baba Fadlu, go ahead. Claim that you are a new prophet. Claim that you're a new imam. But don't say this is the lineage and this is the methodology of Ahlul Bayt alayhim salam. The same way we had groups that broke away from the imam to claim their own independence, you have the same challenge today. And it is ruining the movement of Ahlul Bayt alayhim salam. Because there is so much ghulu, because there is so much infighting, there is so much hatred between Shia and Shia, so much hatred between Shia and Sunni. None of these things represent the school of Ahlul Bayt alayhim salam. If you want to make up your own religion, please go ahead, I don't mind. Call yourself a prophet, call yourself Najjar. I don't care. But don't do something in the name of Ahlul Bayt alayhim salam when it's really independent of their movement and ruining the movement of Ahlul Bayt alayhim salam. Because really, all it is doing the same thing that those movements did at the fourth Imam's time. And these are the challenges that we have in the modern time. Inshallah, you have understood both the apparent and the subtleties of what I'm trying to say. The challenges of our time. The society is structured such that it is trying to make you apathetic. It wants you to be greedy. It wants to make you think about you only. It doesn't encourage solidarity between people. It doesn't encourage a power base of people to work for each other. Poverty is increasing? Yeah, but this is a governmental issue. Homelessness is increasing? Yeah, but this is a governmental issue. Can you imagine what Ali ibn Abi Talib, the man who did not stand for an iota of dhulm, would have said about that? And what he would have said about his Shia that became so apathetic towards such dhulm that is present within society today. If you really want to be part of the movement of Hussein ibn Ali, the movement of Sajjad, it is to awaken and to be part of the harakat of your time and to stick within the boundaries of Ahlul Bayt alayhim salam. Open the Quran please and let us read what Allah says, and then we will conclude with our reminding ourselves of the tragedy of the Imam. This is Surah Al-Ma'idah, chapter number 5, verses 1 to 2. We will see here how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala lays down principles for this movement. It speaks about the unification of the groups of people, just like as was demanded by the fourth Imam. You want to work under the Mukhtari movement? Go. I am under house arrest. I cannot lead this movement. They will kill me if I go up. Work with this movement. You want to work with the Tawabin? Work with the Tawabin. You want to work with the Kaysaniyah? Work with the Kaysaniyah. But under principles of unity, justice, away from dhulm. Listen what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, Ya ayyuhal ladhina amanu, O you who believe, awfu bil uqud, uphold your uqud, the aqad, the pledges that you have made for yourselves, the oaths that you have taken for yourself. It's very interesting, isn't it? It's not singular. It's not awfu bil aqad, awfu bil uqud. There's a multitude of oaths that you will take. One of you will work this way, one of you will work that way. One of you will want to be engaged in society in this way, one of you will want to be engaged in society in that way. But all of you be engaged and then uphold your uqud. That's number 2. Ya ayyuhal ladhina amanu, O you who believe. If you are mu'min, pay attention. La tahillu sha'a'ir Allah. Do not, how do I translate? Where are you seeing a good translation? Do not violate the sha'a'ir of Allah, the sanctities of Allah. You've made your uqud, do not violate the sanctity of Allah. What is the greatest sanctity of Allah? Ahlul Bayt alayhim as-salam. Do not violate your sanctities that you've made with Allah. Wala ash-shahr al-haram, and do not violate the sanctity of the holy month of Allah. What holy month are we in? The month of Muharram, where we pledge our allegiance and our uqud back to Imam. Do not violate the sanctity of Allah. Do not violate the shahr of Allah, the holy month of Allah. Walal hada, and do not violate the offerings that you will make. SubhanAllah. You have sacrifices, you've got offerings to make in the way of Allah. Do not violate them. Keep those offerings that you're making good. Don't allow those sacrifices that you're making for Ahlul Bayt alayhim salam to become violations. Keep those sanctities in the way in which you have meant to offer them. Wala al-qala'id. You know, this is amazing. You know the qala'id, do you know what it's referring to? At the time of revelation, this referred to the bells and the necklaces around cattle. Think about this. Allah is saying, don't even violate the sanctity of those ornaments that you have made as epithets of religion. You see that? Ya Abul Fadl Abbas, Ya Hussein. These sanctities that you have made in religion, do not even violate these. At that time, these necklaces that were used in order to identify that this was your sheep, this was your cow, because you are a farmer and you're a different farmer, and even those things do not violate the sanctities of these things. So minimal, the qala'id, the necklaces do not violate. Do not violate the sha'a'ir of Allah. Do not violate the hurma of Allah. Don't violate even to the minor of these things. Stay within the boundaries of Ahlul Bayt alayhim salam when you use these things. وَلَا آمِينَ الْبَيْتِ الْحَرَامِ يَبْتَغُونَ فَضْلًا مِنْ رَبٍّ وَرِضْوَانَهُ. When you see those people who are leaving the haram of Allah, you will see them sincerely, ardently seeking the fadl of Allah. وَإِذَا حَلَلْتُمْ فَاسْتَادُوا. And when you finished with your action of Hajj and Umrah, when it's halal to you, now you can start hunting, go back into your normal practices. وَلَا يَجْرِمَنَّكُمْ شَنَآنُ قَوْمٍ أَنْ سَدُّوكُمْ عَنِ الْمَسْجِدِ الْحَرَامِ أَنْ تَعْتَدُوا وَتَعَاوَنُوا عَلَى الْبِرِّ وَالتَّقْوَى. Do not allow your dislike of another group of people that you end up violating them. Don't allow that if you have disagreements amongst your groups and you don't like someone, don't allow it that you end up doing bad to the other group just because you have a disagreement and that you don't like each other. What did the fourth Imam have? Different groups at his time that ended up warring with each other. separating from each other, becoming independent movements away from each other. Now you Shia, come together. What do we have today? This person's marja is this person's alim is that. I don't like the way he does this, I don't like the way he does that. Infighting between Shia. Don't allow yourselves to become divided. وَتَعَاوَنُوا عَلَى الْبِرِّ وَالتَّقْوَى, and aid each other in piety and God consciousness. Help each other, your groups, in piety and God consciousness. وَلَا تَعَاوَنُوا عَلَى الْإِثْمِ وَالْعُدْوَانِ, and do not help each other in evil and enmity amongst yourselves. Don't add fuel to the fire when you have different groups amongst each other. Help each other in your movement. Inna Allah shadidul iqab. If you don't listen, you want to help break up the Shia Ummah, you want to help break up the Muslim Ummah, you want to create fighting amongst yourselves, Allah is severe in requiting justice, punishment.
محمد وآل محمد صلوات.
Here, these are the subtleties of the movement of the fourth Imam. He inherited a movement at a time which was so apathetic that it felt it could not participate in society's movements. When they came to move, he needed to give it a guiding hand, bring the different groups together under the challenges of his own life to secure his own life under house arrest. And then he enthused it with the Azar, enthused it with Risalat al-Huquq, and enthused it with Sayyidat Sajjadi, bringing about an intellectual and spiritual revolution in the society. If you want to follow the sunnah of As-Sajjad alayhi salam, bring both. Have your groups unite. Do not be apathetic. Have harakat. Have movement. And your movements should be underscored by the Aza of Hussein, by the Risalat al-Huquq of society, and the spirituality of your regular recitation of Sahih Sajjadi. Do that and you'll be in line with Sayyid Sajjad. Outside of that, we are independent and we are making a movement away from Ahlul Bayt alayhim salam. And the Imam is asked, what was the most difficult time for you? He didn't say Karbala. He didn't say Sham-e Ghariba. He said Ash-Sham, Ash-Sham, Ash-Sham. One of the companions by the name of, the name escaped me for a moment. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Abi Hamza al-Thamali. Abu Hamza al-Thamali one day comes towards Imam al-Sajjad alayhi salam and says to him, Ya ibn Rasulullah, why do I see you weeping in the way in which you are? Listen to his words. Your family have become martyrs, shuhada. They have been honored by Allah. Why do you continue to cry day after day, year after year, year after year? Imam al-Sajjad alayhi salam responds to him and says, may Allah bless you, Abu Hamza al-Thamali. I will tell you why I cry so much. Because I can't stop seeing my aunties and my family members running from tent to tent on the day of Ashura. I can't help but see that their clothes have caught on fire and they are trying to put out the fire when they run from tent to tent. The hadith tells us that the Imam is lying in a state of semi-consciousness. Before his father was to be brutally massacred, Imam al-Hussein returned back towards the tents and called Imam as-Sajjad, sat down beside him and woke him up from his state of semi-consciousness. He says to him, O Sajjad, the time has come for your father to depart into the battlefield. Sajjad, in a state of utmost weakness, looks into the eyes of his father and says, O father, how can that be? Where is your beloved Habib? There is no way that you would be allowed to enter into the battlefield whilst Habib is still alive. Hussein says to him, O Sajjad, Habib has departed. He says, well then tell me, where is Akbar, my brother? There is no way that Akbar would allow you to enter into the battlefield whilst you are still alive. He says, Akbar's body sits in a tent next to you. His chest has been severed open by a spearhead. Sajjad says, oh father, then tell me where is Abbas? Because there is no way that Abbas would allow you to enter into the battlefield. Hussein says, do not ask me about anyone else. Abbas lies by the banks of the river Euphrates. His arms have been severed. His eye has been shot with an arrow. There is none left from amongst the adult men but you and me, O Sajjad. Sajjad looks towards his aunties Zainab and Kulthum and says, oh Auntie Kulthum, hand me a stick and hand me a sword. Why do you want a stick and why do you want a sword? I want a stick so I have some strength in which to lean on. I want a stick so I can stand up. And I want a sword so I can defend the grandson of Rasulullah. He begins to try to get up. This is a man who is so ill that cannot remain conscious for more than a few minutes. He is trying to get up. Imam says, O Zainab bin Kulthum, hold him back, for if Sajjad enters the battlefield, the line of Imamat will be severed. He says, O Sajjad, I will give you the reins of Imamat. O family, come and pay allegiance. They come and they put their hands in the hand of Zainul Abidin. He now says, O Sajjad, I am giving you my wasiyah. When you return back to Medina, tell my Shia my wasiyah. Imam says, oh father, what is your wasiyah? What should I convey to the Shia of Medina? He says, tell them every time they drink a cold glass of water to remember the thirst of Hussein. This is what I want from my Shia, just to remember the burning thirst on the throat of Hussein ibn Ali. Imam is recounting this towards Abi Hamza al-Thamali. He says, oh Abu Hamza, all I can see in my eyes is my aunties running from one tent to another. One of those who narrate the hadith or narrate the narrative of Karbala, Hamid ibn Muslim. Hamid ibn Muslim is narrated to have said, I was standing outside the tents and I saw a very tall lady and I saw that her clothes began to be set alight. I said to her, oh lady, do you not care about your own clothes being set alight? She said, oh enemy of Allah, there is a man who is lying inside the tent. I am concerned about him being burnt alive more than I am concerned about my own self. Our Dhakirin tell us that this lady ran into the tent and ran out of the burning tent. Into the burning tent and out of the burning tent. When she went into the tent, those who were waiting outside began to become worried, as if to say, has this lady been burnt? Why has she not come back outside? She comes out and she is dragging out a man. As she is dragging out a man of this burning tent, they come to her and say, oh lady, who are you and who is this man that you are dragging out? She says, I am Zainab bint Ali, and this is Ali ibn al-Hussein Zainul Abidin. He is at the state of unconsciousness. He cannot even stand. I have had to drag him out of the burning tent. The enemies call out, leave no man alive. Shimr and Khuli, the narration says that they stand over Sajjad, they pull out a dagger and they are about to strike Sajjad dead. Zainab throws herself in front of Sajjad and says, you will have to kill me before you kill Sajjad. when the Imam says Asham, 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 it is because he was made to be humiliated as they entered into Bazar al-Sham. They did whatever they could to try to humiliate Imam al-Sajjad. There is a hadith that says, the Imam says, Imam al-Sajjad says, 6 things happened to us in Bazar al-Sham that did not happen anywhere else. We were paraded for 20 cities, but in Bazar al-Sham, what happened to us did not happen anywhere else in the other cities. He said, we were forced to walk through the largest gate where the most number of people would be watching us. As we walked through, they began to mock us. They began to laugh at us. Do you know what they did? The Imam says they picked up stones and they hurled stones at us. This is Sakina having stones thrown at her. This is Imam al-Baqir having thrown stone at him. This is Sayyid Zainab bin Kulthum having stones thrown at them. Imam al-Sajjad says, we were taken to the area of which they used to try to sell slaves. They tried to sell us off as a slave. Then they took us to the area of the Jews and the Christians and they lined us up. They called the Jews and the Christians out and they said, these are the children, the inheritors of those that killed your fathers at Khaybar and Khandaq. Now if you want your revenge, come and take your revenge. The Jews and Christians started to mock us, started to hurt us. But there was 2 types of torture that Imam al-Sajjad describes in the hadith. He says, as we were walking in Bazar al-Sham, the women of Sham would boil pots of water. And as we were made to walk, those women who were standing by the balconies, they would tip over the boiling water. And as we were walking, the boiling water would scold us. This is why you hear in the maktab, when they try to take the cloth of Sayyidah Sakina and they try to give her ghusl, they could not take it off her because it was charred against her skin. And there is another hadith from this where Imam al-Sajjad says that we were walking in Bazar al-Sham. One lady took a piece of wood, set it alight, and threw it at me. And now it hit me in the head. My turban began to burn, but my arms are bound. Sajjad's arms are bound. This is a man whose neck is being weighed down by shackles, with points in him that he is bleeding from his neck. I am being hit by fire, such that the fire is burning the turban of Imam al-Sajjad. They are made to stand outside the bazaar. They are made to stand outside the palace of Yazid for 72 hours, where they are mocked. Yazid is putting on adornments. He is taking court jesters. He is taking clowns, and he is making them sing and dance around Imam al-Sajjad. This is why Imam al-Sajjad said the hardest time for us was Asham, Asham, Asham. When the Imam returns back towards Medina, he now has to enliven the community with the Azaa of Hussein. It is said that he was walking inside the streets. He came to a butcher. As he saw the butcher, he was about to come and slaughter the neck of a sheep. Sajjad comes and sits down. He begins to cry. He says to the butcher, "Oh man, tell me, did you give water to the sheep before you were about to slaughter it?" He says, "Of course I gave water to it." The Imam turns his face towards Karbala. He says, "Assalamu alayka ya Aba Abdullah." "Oh butcher, my father was slaughtered whilst he was thirsty. He called out for a drop of water, but they shot him in the neck with an arrow. And then Shimr kicked him over and severed his head, severing him 12 times and then putting his head upon the spear." ألا لعنة الله على القوم الظالمين وسيعلم الذين ظلموا أي منقلب ينقلبون إنا لله وإنا إليه راجعون. Please raise your hands, let's join each other in dua. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to hasten the appearance of Imam al-Mahdi alayhi salam, to allow us to be alongside him at all times in our life and in our death. If we're to pass away from this world before his coming, raise us from our graves so that we partake in the victories of Muhammad and Muhammad. We ask you, Allah, there are many people around the world going through such desperate times, those people in war, poverty, homelessness, oppression and disaster. Ya Allah, grant them more safety, security and victory for the sake of Muhammad and Muhammad. We ask you, Ya Allah, help us to understand the movement of Imam as-Sajjad alayhi salam. Help us to be with him in our movement and never to depart from him. Help us to read his works. Help us to imbibe and live his works, inshaAllah. Wassalamu alaikum jami'an wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Matim Hussein, Ya Hussein.
Ya Hussein, 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 Ya Hussein.
अब चादर बाजू पे तू नीले दाग छुपा नहीं ज़हरा की शर्मा नहीं नाटक अब चादर बाजू पे तू नीले दाग छुपा नहीं ज़हरा की शर्मा नहीं तेरे नाना का ये रोज़ा है कोई तूफा शाम की नहीं ज़हरा की शर्मा नहीं नाटक अब चादर बाजू पे तू नीले दाग छुपा नहीं ज़हरा की शर्मा नहीं जो चादर उजली थी तेरी रंग उसका कैसे लाल हुआ जो चादर उजली थी तेरी रंग उसका कैसे लाल हुआ अब सर पे तेरे शहजादी अब सर पे तेरे शहजादी वो क्यों मौजूद रहा नहीं ज़हरा की शर्मा नहीं नाटक अब चादर बाजू पे तू नीले दाग छुपा नहीं ज़हरा की शर्मा नहीं अठारह जो तेरे भाई थे किस बात पे तुझसे टूट गए अठारह जो तेरे भाई थे किस बात पे तुझसे टूट गए वो शहजादे क्यों साथ नहीं वो शहजादे क्यों साथ नहीं साथ तेरा पास नहीं ज़हरा की शर्मा नहीं नाटक अब चादर बाजू पे तू नीले दाग छुपा नहीं ज़हरा की शर्मा नहीं ये कौन जवां है साथ तेरे किन ये कौन जवां है साथ तेरे किन कपड़े जिसके खून से भरे ये कौन जवां है साथ तेरे है कपड़े जिसके खून से भरे इन जख्मों से ये दूर हुआ इन जख्मों से ये दूर हुआ आंखों से भी खून रुकता नहीं ज़हरा की शर्मा नहीं नाटक अब चादर बाजू पे तू नीले दाग छुपा नहीं ज़हरा की शर्मा नहीं किस हाल में करबल से आई है ज़ैनब अपने शहर में तू किस हाल में करबल से आई है ज़ैनब अपने शहर में तू हाल में करबल से आई है ज़ैनब अपने शहर में तू अब इससे सिवा अफसोस हो क्या अब इससे सिवा अफसोस हो क्या पहचान सकी सुगरा नहीं ज़हरा की शर्मा नहीं नाटक अब चादर बाजू पे तू नीले दाग छुपा नहीं ज़हरा की शर्मा नहीं वो बच्ची जिसको सीने पे शबीर सुनाया करते थे वो बच्ची जिसको सीने पे शबीर सुनाया करते थे मेरे आंखें ढूंढ के हार गई मेरे आंखें ढूंढ के का पता नहीं,
ज़रा की जहाँ शर्मा नहीं, ना रख अब चादर बाजों पे, तू नीले दाग छुपा नहीं, ज़रा की जहाँ शर्मा नहीं।
एक गुंजा दहन मासूम भी था, नाम उसका असग़र रखा था,
एक गुंजा दहन मासूम भी था, नाम उसका असग़र रखा था।
क्यों हारी गोद रबाब की है,
क्यों हारी गोद रबाब की है,
इस बाब में क्यों जुड़ा नहीं,
ज़रा की जहाँ शर्मा नहीं, ना रख अब चादर बाजों पे, तू नीले दाग छुपा नहीं, ज़रा की जहाँ शर्मा नहीं।
ना था ये रोज़ा है,
कोई तूफ़ा शाम गिरा नहीं, ज़रा की जहाँ शर्मा नहीं, ना रख अब चादर बाजों पे, तू नीले दाग छुपा नहीं, ज़रा की जहाँ शर्मा नहीं।
मज़लूम का मातम है, मज़लूम का मातम,
मज़लूम का मातम है, मज़लूम का मातम, मज़लूम का मातम है, मज़लूम का मातम।
लोगों ये तमाशा नहीं,
लोगों ये तमाशा नहीं,
लोगों ये तमाशा नहीं, इस रोने पे हंसना नहीं, मज़लूम
का मातम है, मज़लूम का मातम, मज़लूम का मातम है, मज़लूम का मातम।
क्या मिलता है मातम में, किस तरह बताएं, मज़लूम को रोते हैं मज़लूम जहाँ में, मज़लूम को रोते हैं
मज़लूम जहाँ में,
पत्थर नहीं सीने में,
पत्थर नहीं सीने में,
पत्थर नहीं सीने में, दिल है तो ये मातम,
मज़लूम का मातम है, मज़लूम का मातम, मज़लूम का मातम है, मज़लूम का मातम।
घर फातिमा ज़हरा का किस तरह से उजड़ा, जब होगी कयामत तो यूं आएंगी ज़हरा, जब होगी कयामत तो यूं आएंगी ज़हरा। एक हाथ में दो बाजू,
एक हाथ में दो बाजू,
एक हाथ में दो बाजू, एक हाथ में परचम,
मज़लूम का मातम है, मज़लूम का मातम, मज़लूम का मातम है, मज़लूम का मातम।
जब प्यारे मोहम्मद से मैं प्यार करूँगा, फिर उसके नवासे का मातम भी करूँगा,
फिर उसके नवासे का मातम भी करूँगा।
जिस घर में मोहम्मद है,
जिस घर में मोहम्मद है,
जिस घर में मोहम्मद है, उस घर का ये मातम,
मज़लूम का मातम है, मज़लूम का मातम, मज़लूम का मातम है, मज़लूम का मातम।
लोगों नबी ज़ाती का बाजारों में आना, और बांध के रस्सी में दरबारों में लाना,
और बांध के रस्सी में दरबारों में लाना।
इस बात पे रोते हैं,
इस बात पे रोते हैं,
इस बात पे रोते हैं, इस दर्द का मातम,
मज़लूम का मातम है, मज़लूम
شبیر کا بیٹا ماں بہن کھلے سر تھی خون روتا تھا مولا ماں بہن کھلے سر تھی خون روتا تھا مولا سجاد سے پوچھو تو سجاد سے پوچھو تو سجاد سے پوچھو تو کیوں ہے یہ کمر خم
مظلوم کا ماتم ہے مظلوم کا ماتم مظلوم کا ماتم ہے مظلوم کا ماتم
خط فاطمہ صغرا کا اس وقت ملا ہے جب بھائی سینا کھائے ریتی پہ پڑا ہے جب بھائی سینا کھائے ریتی پہ پڑا ہے خط کون پڑھے تیرا خط کون پڑھے تیرا خط کون پڑھے تیرا تنہائی کا عالم
مظلوم کا ماتم ہے مظلوم کا ماتم مظلوم کا ماتم ہے مظلوم کا ماتم
ریحان کا سرور کا بخشش کا وسیلہ یہ نوحہ یہ ماتم ہے یہ فرش عزا کا یہ نوحہ یہ ماتم ہے یہ فرش عزا کا اور سر پہ کھلا اپنے اور سر پہ کھلا اپنے اور سر پہ کھلا اپنے عباس کا پرچم
مظلوم کا ماتم ہے مظلوم کا ماتم مظلوم کا ماتم ہے مظلوم کا ماتم
مل کے سب ماتم شبیر کرے 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 دل بدل سینہ بسینہ کربلا تعمیر کرے سب
ماتم شبیر کرے مل کے سب ماتم شبیر کرے
یہ ماتم پہچان ہماری اس پہ جاں قربان ہماری جس میں یہی ہے جان ہماری یہ ماتم ہے شان ہماری کہتا ہے ایمان ہمارا سارے جوانوں پیر کرے
سب ماتم شبیر کرے مل کے سب ماتم شبیر کرے
اصغر تیری پیاس کا ماتم اکبر کا عباس کا ماتم حسرت کا اور یاس کا ماتم حاصل ہے احساس کا ماتم لاکھ زمانہ ہم کو روکے ہم اس کی تشہیر کریں
سب ماتم شبیر کرے مل کے سب ماتم شبیر کرے
یہ ماتم مظلوم کا ماتم زہرا کے معصوم کا ماتم پانی سے محروم کا ماتم تیغ تلے حلقوم کا ماتم اس ماتم سے ہم جو چاہیں وقت کو زنجیر کریں
سب ماتم شبیر کرے مل کے سب ماتم شبیر کرے
عابد کی زنجیر کا ماتم خوش کرے اور تیر کا ماتم زینب کا شبیر کا ماتم دل سے کرے دلگیر کا ماتم، جو ماتم زینب نے کیا تھا ہم اس کی تفسیر کریں،
سب ماتم شبیر کرے، مل کے سب ماتم شبیر کرے۔
ماتم کیا ہے شہ کا علم ہے، یہ ماتم تو دین کا بھرم ہے، جسے خوشی ہو وہ یہ غم ہے، حق یہی ماتم پرچم ہے، اس پرچم کو اس ماتم کو سینوں پہ تحریر کرے،
سب ماتم شبیر کرے، مل کے سب ماتم شبیر کرے۔
ماتم جس کا دریا دریا، جس کی وفائی مان کا چہرہ، جس کے علم کا خون میں پہرا، ڈوب گیا وہ چاند نہ ڈوبا، اس کی وفا کہتی ہے ہم سے دنیا کو تسخیر کرے،
سب ماتم شبیر کرے، مل کے سب ماتم شبیر کرے۔
نہ سکی جو بھائی کا غم، اس سے نب کی یاد میں اب ہم رنج و خوشی سے کر کے باہم، ہر دن سمجھے ماہ محرم، زخمی دل زینب کی خاطر کوئی دوا کثیر کرے،
سب ماتم شبیر کرے، مل کے سب ماتم شبیر کرے۔
رسن میں ہاتھ بندھے تھے، کیسے بڑا وہ ماتم کرتے، ان کی دلوں میں یاد بسا کے نوح کی ماتم کی صدا سے، اہل زہرا کی دعا سے خلد کو جاگیر کرے،
سب ماتم شبیر کرے، مل کے سب ماتم شبیر کرے۔
کہہ دیں گے ریحان و سرور حشر میں جب خاتون محشر، پوچھیں گی یہ بات جو آ کر چاہیے گا ماتم کی بنا پر، ہم کہہ دیں گے ہم کو خام شبر و شبیر کرے،
سب ماتم شبیر کرے، مل کے سب ماتم شبیر کرے،
مل کے سب
ماتم شبیر کرے۔
یا حسین 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 یا
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. السلام عليك يا رسول الله، السلام عليك يا نبي الله، السلام عليك يا أمير المؤمنين، السلام عليك يا فاطمة الزهراء، السلام عليك يا خديجة الكبرى، السلام عليك يا حسن المجتبى، السلام عليك يا أبا عبد الله الحسين، وعلى الأرواح التي حلت بفنائك، عليكم مني جميعا سلام الله عبدا ما بقيت، وبقي الليل والنهار، ولا جعله الله آخر العهد مني لزيارتكم. السلام على الحسين وعلى علي بن الحسين وعلى أولاد الحسين وعلى أصحاب الحسين، خصوصا سيدي ومولاي أبو الفضل العباس بن أمير المؤمنين، وأختك زينب الكبرى أم المسائب، وأم كلثوم وبنت سكينة، ورحمة الله وبركاته. السلام عليك يا غريب الغرباء سلطان بالحسن علي بن موسى الرضا كن شفيعنا وشفيع والدينا في يوم الجزاء ورحمة الله وبركاته. السلام عليك يا مولانا يا صاحب الزمان السلام عليك يا خليفة الرحمن السلام عليك يا شريك القرآن السلام عليك يا إمامنا وإمام الإنس والجان عجل الله فرجاه وسهل الله مخرجاه وظهور السلام عليكم جميعا ورحمة الله وبركاته. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم اللهم وليك وجد الحسن صلواتك عليه وعلى آله في هذه الساعة وفي كل ساعة وليا وحافظا وقائدا وناصرا ودليلا وعينا حتى تسكنه أرضك طوعا وتمتعه فيها طويلا.